Next item, Westward Linear Park, Gaines Park Maintenance and Upkeep. Commissioner Riles.
Thank you, Mayor. The impetus for this request to be on the session today primarily came from my colleague, Commissioner Peduzzi, when he said that we want the park bond, and I am fully supportive of the park bond. I don't even want anyone to think I'm not. But once we have a park, we have to maintain it and put the resources in it and have it operate as it was intended. The Westward Linear Park was placed where it currently is probably about 25 years ago. And there was a fountain in that park that hasn't operated probably in about 10 years. Many of the residents around the area where the park was did not want it because they felt that it would be an attraction for criminal activity, which it has become. And the maintenance from the city would be substandard, which it has been. And so I want to know what Parks and Rec is going to do and what its plans are and what its maintenance schedule is for the linear park. We had a citizen, one of my neighbors, come in at our last commission meeting who talked about the deplorable conditions at Gaines Park at the pool. And he detailed them. That condition has existed for a number of years. And so I'd like for Parks and Rec to give me some type of update on how they are going to address these issues and prevent them from occurring in the future.
Good morning, Commissioners, Mayor. Leah Rockwell, Director of Parks and Recreation. So I'm going to start with Westward Park. Westward Park, over the past, I guess it was 3 or 4 years, and about 2 years ago, had a total remake, total redo, and it was decided by many people that the actual waterfall fountain that you're referring to not be replaced because it was causing more issues with the quality of the water than actual the upkeep of the fountain. However, the bubbler fountains were replaced. So there is a aeration fountain that is in there that currently has been operating. So that was put in there, and they had to go through a whole type of engineering, which I can't talk to because I'm not an engineer, in order to create a way in which the pump could continue to operate. Because it is a stormwater canal, there's a lot of muck and stuff that would get into that when the water levels dropped, because it is a stormwater canal, and it would burn out the motors, and it was very difficult to keep that aeration fountain operational. So they went through a whole, like 2 or 3 years of engineering to figure out how to get that aeration fountain operational. As far as the maintenance of the Westward Park, there was all new plantings, irrigation, a myriad of things that went in there. So what Public Utilities does is every 2 years, and they just are finishing up, if they haven't already, re-pressure washing the walls of the canal, because most stormwater canals don't have walls, but this does. So they have to go in there, they have to pressure wash it. We, Parks and Recreation, pressure wash the sidewalks, the walkways, every 2 years, because we don't typically pressure walk sidewalks, but here we do because of the way that the sidewalks feed into the canal. It causes dirty sidewalks. So we're in there every 2 years pressure washing those sidewalks. The irrigation in that area has had challenges with the backflow valves. The handles on the backflow valves have been messed with by the community, and so there are times when we don't even know that the irrigation isn't working because the community who wants to do things in that area that shouldn't be going on turns it off so that they're not getting water on them from the irrigation system. So we have come up with a way to remove those valve handles so we're going to change all that out. So we just recently figured out how we're going to fix that element with people going in there and turning off the backflows, which turns off the irrigation, which then causes the plantings to be challenged. And we're also looking at changing some of the plantings because of the way that the water flows at that, in that area, we can't keep some of the plants alive. So we're trying to put in a type of sod or turf instead of plants that aren't surviving in that environment. So that's what we're looking on right now. But we are constantly in there trying to maintain the graffiti and the litter. We're in there every day picking up litter. So it's an area that is very challenging, but we are committed to keeping Westward Park clean. So switching to Gaines Park, is that good?
I just had a follow-up if I
Okay.
can, Mayor.
Yeah.
I walked on Flagler yesterday, and the benches all have these, they look like
Middle arms.
right, so that people can't sleep out there because you know that that's going to happen. So proactively, those benches were put there because you knew that there was going to be a certain problem, and you made sure that you planned for that problem. Well, the community, I know for a fact, because I was one of them, knew that this would be a problem, and dirt and trash and shopping carts and whatever was going to get into the water at the linear park. What can be done proactively to stop that so that, you know when you're in an urban setting sometimes that you have challenges that you don't have in other places. Did anybody put any thought and attention to, thinking like people who do that kind of thing?
Well, I wasn't here when they created the linear park. I was here when they finished it. What we've done is we put cameras in the area to try and either deter or to try and catch those that are doing the illegal behavior or inappropriate behavior. But as they're throwing things in there, we're trying our best to go and get it out. Typically, we have to bring a boat in, lower it into the canal to then get all the stuff out of there and get it out of there. So it's definitely one of our areas that we have to be more creative in how we try and maintain it. But as we put more cameras around, we're hoping that we can deter some of the behavior that's going on there, and having the security company that's scheduled to make more trips around the linear park.
And do you have an idea when the cameras will be placed?
There are cameras currently there.
The additional ones you're talking about?
No, we don't have a date on that.
Leah,
Yes.
at what point are we going to look at cost benefit? All right, if the cost of keeping this as a safe, attractive park, if you will, becomes so high that it outweighs the benefit, do we have a plan B? Because we could put all the cameras up that we want, but if no one's either looking at the cameras, or we find that we're not able to catch the bad people, and so we got to start sending boats in and whatever it is to keep this thing clean. Maybe we need to reconsider whether this is the right approach with that space.
So we have had discussions before we spent all the money putting it back to, putting in all plantings, upgrading the irrigation, fixing the aeration fountain. There were discussions about enclosing the stormwater canal and making it more of a enclosed area. I don't know if it's concreting it in or whatever it is, but enclosing it so it'd be more of an underground stormwater canal. But we never really went that way because at the time the administration had given us the direction to bring it back to a prettier, greener park environment for the community.
Well, let's consider engaging the community in some conversations about the future of that. Apparently Commissioner Rouse was aware of and maybe even participated in some earlier conversations where this necessarily wasn't the direction in which many of the community wanted to proceed. We proceeded anyway, and now they're looking like profits apparently. So let's see if we can engage them and get a better sense as to what it is that they would like to see, so that we are now working with them and not at odds with them.
Can I just, for point of clarification,
Absolutely.
if you don't mind? Everything that we did to bring it up to its current standard was done not in a bubble. It was done with constant communication with the neighborhood, sustainability, and Suzanne Berglund from engineering. They went to the neighborhood association. I can't tell you, it probably was 30 different meetings throughout the 2 or 3 years of getting this back to where it needed to be, despite all the other challenges that we have from the environment in which it's in. So it was done based on what the community wanted, but certainly we need to look at the cost benefit of it.
Commissioner Shove?
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks to Commissioner Riles for putting this on the agenda. I certainly want to defer to whatever the neighborhood would like to see, but I think, if I hear the theme, it was to make sure that we're equitably distributing public assets, and perhaps if a park isn't the best use, maybe it turns into an AIPP project where it's still something that's nice, beneficial for the community, but functions better and is more easily maintainable. Again, that's me jumping the gun a little bit because I don't know what the community wants. But what I don't want us to say is you either have a park or you have nothing. Perhaps there's an alternate course that we could take here that makes everybody a bit happier. So thank you.
Okay, now Gaines Park.
Okay, so Gaines Park, in reference to the comments that were made at the last commission meeting. So I was at the pool deck. There is no mildew on the pool deck. The splash pad itself operates only when the pool is open, and it's concrete. And the concrete is stained because we've got chlorine and a bunch of other stuff that goes on there. So the pool deck gets pressure washed before the pool is back open The pool is currently closed. It doesn't open until April 1st. So the pool is only open right now for swim teams and not for general swim. So when it opens April 1st, that pool deck gets pressure washed. So there is no currently any mildew, nor will the health department allow us to operate the pool with mold or mildew on the property, because they come in and they inspect our pool even when we're closed to make sure that it meets all of their standards. Secondly, about the crumbling wall, we have tried to use some plaster repair on that wall, and I don't know if you remember the list of Parks bond items. The $1.25 million was specifically for that pool. That club, that pool house was built in the 60s and is in desperate need of being replaced. I don't think it should be a repair. I think it should be a replacement if we can afford it, and do some other upgrades to the pool to make it more inviting to our community. So in reference to those issues, that's where we're at, but certainly I'd be willing to answer any other questions.
Commissioner Rawls, this was your...
Commission, okay.
That's your item.
Yeah, what I would say is that, well, my house was built in the 60s and it's not crumbling. So what kind of maintenance schedule is occurring that allows the wall to get in a condition like that in the first place?
They've been trying to repair it. It just has deteriorated over the years. So they have been trying to use a concrete patch, and patches, because we didn't have the money to replace the wall completely. I can't tell you if a vehicle hit it or if a golf cart hit it, but it needed to be fixed, and we were trying to patch it because we didn't have the $1.2 million to replace it as a part of the whole building rebuild.
And then the other thing that the citizen mentioned was the canals having a bunch of debris in them. And I cut through there periodically, and I can concur that happens, so.
Yeah, I would have to coordinate with public utilities on cleaning the stormwater canals, because we don't have boats to go in and clean the stormwater canals. But we'd be happy to do that.
Okay, can you look into that, please?
Absolutely.
Commissioner Shove?
Thank you. And thank you for being here today to talk about some of these issues. I think beyond what the resident was here discussing, there is a larger group of residents and friends of Gaines Park who are certainly very active at Gaines Park that have a number of concerns when it pertains to the actual building, which I know buildings were built in several iterations going back as far as the 60s. So you're dealing with a lot of old buildings. And I don't know, Mayor, what the correct form is for this, if it's more of a neighborhood meeting to try to talk about, some of the things that have been done. Because I know 2 years ago, when I went through Gaines Park, we were replacing air conditioning units and sections of roofs and things like that. But also, pending the Parks bond passing, and even without the Parks bond passing, there's a number of a pretty solid budget from the penny sales tax that's going into Gaines Park. But I think it behooves all of us to make sure it addresses items like leaking roofs, leaking windows, things that are aging infrastructure because of time. And I think there's a concern immediately about the safety of the building as far as mold, et cetera. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, we've done some air quality tests.
We've done several air quality tests. There's been, they've come back clean and healthy.
Okay. I think if at the mayor's permission, if we could, engage the neighborhood in some way, because, I think what I want to communicate to the neighbors, friends of Gaines Park, the families who are using Gaines Park as after-school programs, that the building is safe and ready for occupancy, but also that with the significant funds that you're looking to dedicate to the building, that these issues are going to be further addressed, because I think there's some, I don't know what the right word is for it, frustration that results in saying, let's just tear the whole building down and build a new one. And although we do have a significant renovation budget, we would never get the significant size of building out of that budget. And so I think that's important to just make everyone aware and really address and make sure, safety priority number one. We have a lot of kids. Great park. We're out there on Saturday, had a great event for the Dockhorn Appreciation Day. And so certainly a great place where all of our residents get to use.
Yeah. So the roof issue has been currently resolved. Leaks keep showing up in different places, and they're coming from different places. And we were trying to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. We wanted to repair versus replace, because should the bond pass, we're going to have to put a brand new roof on that is bigger than the current roof. So for us to have put $150,000 into replacing the roof last year and then having to tear it out for the expansion would really have been, it would have hurt us to spend that kind of money and then have it just be torn out. We'd rather use that money in other ways. So we've been patching it, and because we are a licensed after-school program, the health department comes into the centers and they do inspections and they check everything. So they even, when roof tiles show any type of stains, we get fined for it. So they're constantly in there checking everything to make sure that the environment is safe for our children in the city.
If I may follow up.
Yes.
And I think that kind of information is important. I certainly understand that from a financial perspective. And I know we've done a lot of engagement, but I don't think we can engage too much.
Sure.
To re-engage the neighbors and make sure, let them bring up their concerns and make sure they know it's going to be addressed under renovation. So that way, if they say, well, it's not going to do any good if we have a brand new renovated building and the roof is still leaking. Right. Well, the roof is set to be replaced. And I think that will go a long way in trying to help everyone understand a bit better.
It has been stated, but we'd be happy to continue to state it
I
over
appreciate
and over
that.
again.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else on Gaines Park?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much, Leah, and thank you, Commissioner Ross, for bringing this to the agenda.